Last week on the show, we were talking about the fact that we both agreed on the notion that there's way more pressure on his shoulders going into this fight because of how the first fight went. And let's be honest, his last two fights, some people in boxing just want to dismiss the Ngannou fight as some like figment of our imaginations. It wasn't a good night for him, and it was made worse by how AJ looked against Ngannou. And so I'm wondering if you think any of this, his demeanor, the short answers, the beard, locking himself away, does this just kind of back up that notion that there's a ton of pressure. He recognizes it. And it's not maybe a legacy defining fight because at this point, his legacy is pretty secure. But it's, that last chapter that he wants to end on his terms. He wants to end on top. He wants to be considered one of the greatest. And if you lose two fights to Oleksandr Usyk, and if you have a tough showing against Ngannou, and who knows what will come after this, the story changes a bit, doesn't it?
Maybe, but in that little clip, and I do believe this with him, what he's had to come through in his personal life, I almost feel like this is now all bonus time for him. Like what he's doing in the ring now is bonus time. This is a guy that went to Germany and beat the long reigning champion in Vladimir Klitschko, and no one thought he was going to do that. Went to America after coming through suicide issues and drinking and recreational drugs, and went to America, and everyone thought he was going to get absolutely smashed against Deontay Wilder, and I thought beat him in their first fight and then beat him two times after. So this is a guy that's ticked a lot of the boxes when it comes to achieving things in the sport. So, and as well, with his demeanor, he gives you so much sometimes. Like he is literally the showman of showmans. And I almost feel like sometimes he thinks, I ain't giving you guys anything. Like I literally give you guys everything all the time. Like I take the mic, I sing, I turn up in costumes, I make everyone laugh. I become the circus act. And now it's almost a case of, no, not this time. You're not getting it. And maybe that's why it's strange, because we're so used to more from Fury. And I think this time he's decided, no, I'm going to do what 99% of the other boxers do. And this is it. This is what you're getting now. And I'll show you what I can do in the ring. And throughout the week, you're getting nothing. And I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it because you know what? I don't necessarily care about this. I only care about Saturday. And that's all I really care about. And I think that's his mindset as well now.
Do you believe him when he says win or lose, this isn't the last one?
No. And that's not against him. I don't believe any boxer when any boxer says it. I mean, boxers are so we had Gervonta Davis a couple of weeks and we spoke about it on the show, and I still don't know if that's true or not. Very rarely do boxers say this is it and stay this is it. I mean, even Carl Froch seems to want another little knock, doesn't he? Vladimir Klitschko is talking about fighting at 48. So no. Tyson Fury can change his mind. I think we know that he's bipolar in that mind can change whenever. So I'm not quite sure. But you also never know with him. I mean, it could be like if he takes a bad beating, and I don't think he will, but if he does, he might just say, you know what? It's been a great career. I've earned hundreds of millions. I've won every single belt I could win. It's okay to walk away. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Can we play the game of like what the permutations are if either guy wins? Because that to me is just as fascinating. And what makes it so great is that they're all in play. In the past, it was like, okay, this would be the move, but he's promoted by this guy or he's on this network. Now everything's in play in large part because of Turkey Al-Sheikh. And so let's just say Tyson Fury wins. Do you think there's a greater chance of it then being Fury versus AJ next for the belts, or do they go immediately to the trilogy? We saw that video of Turkey calling both Fury and Usyk and saying like, I want the trilogy, I need the trilogy. Do you believe that's the play, or do you think they try to then go to AJ saying the time is now, the stakes will never be higher, he's got 3 of the 4 belts, let's do it right away, and Usyk, you wait for the winner of that?
Oh, man, it's a good question. I think Fury might do the risk-reward thing here. If he were to win, let's just play the game of him winning. If he were to win, he might think, you know what, do I really want to go another 12 hellacious rounds of Oleksandr Usyk? Do I want to do that? Or do I look at where Anthony Joshua is right now in his career? And let's be honest, AJ is on the decline, right? Whether it's a slow decline or a very fast one, he's on the decline. And maybe he looks at that risk-reward and thinks, okay, I can get paid the same amount, if not more, for an easier fight. So he might look at that and think, okay, give me AJ, right? Also, it's a big British showdown, and it's something I know that Tyson Fury likes to do, right? He's spoken about fighting back home in the UK, so it's something he definitely wants to do. So I think it's more likely if he wins that somehow AJ gets snuck into the middle, and then maybe he revisits an Usyk trilogy down the line. I think those are his only 2 options, by the way. I don't think there's a Daniel Dubois fight. I just don't think that's what he wants. I don't think there's a Vladimir Klitschko fight. There's certainly not a Martin Bakole fight or a Joseph Parker or a Zhili Zhang. It's AJ or it's Usyk. And I think if he were to win, it's more AJ than Usyk.
What about Joseph Parker?
No.
No? There's a great story there.
No, it's just not. There is a great story. I mean, and there's an Andy Lee situation as well, because Andy Lee's close with both. Obviously, Andy Lee in the corner with Tyson Fury last time out. Andy Lee, the head trainer of Joseph Parker, but they're too close. They're far too close, Joseph Parker and Tyson Fury. They've been in each other's camps, or at least Joseph has been in Fury's camps. They're good friends. And there's more money to be made fighting other people. Like if Joseph Parker was the only option and the option with the biggest reward, then yeah, they'll do it. But Joseph Parker isn't the only option, and he certainly isn't the biggest reward. So there's no chance of a Joseph Parker fight. It just won't happen ever.
Okay, and then the flip side of that is obviously if Usyk wins, you can't do a third fight with Fury. I don't think there's much interest there. And so is it simply Usyk versus the winner of Dubois Parker, or do you see some other permutation?
Yeah, I see Usyk retiring.
You see? Really? You see Usyk retiring with a win on Saturday in the ring?
Yeah.
Wow. Because there's nothing else. There's no real really sexy matchup because he's beaten all these guys.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Agreed. Not for me. I think if Oleksandr Usyk wins, what else is there to do? What's the discussion? I mean, if Oleksandr Usyk wins, we should all then be discussing, once he does win, or if he wins, where does he lie in an all-time great discussion? This is a guy that dominated the cruiserweights and fought all of them away from home and became undisputed, winning the World Boxing Super Series tournament. This would be a guy, or has been a guy, that's become undisputed heavyweight, right? The smaller guy in the land of the giants. This is an Olympic gold medalist. This is a guy that's going to be 38. Let's not forget that in January. Every time I speak to Usyk, he always talks about his wife and kids, and how he has to leave them to go into these crazy fight camps, these 2-3 month fight camps. What's more? What else is there to achieve for Oleksandr Usyk? He's not going to come down to cruiserweight. I've seen him up close and personal. He's 222 pounds of muscle. He's not losing 22 pounds of muscle to have a fight against Jaya Pattaya or Artur Beterbiev. I think he's done. Honestly, I think if he wins, he's conquered the sport. He's beat the number 1 and number 2 heavyweights, and he's beat the 3rd, 2nd, and 3rd or 4th ranked cruiserweights. He's done everything you can do. So I just don't see the challenge out there for him anymore.
Wow. And maybe Parker then, if Parker beats Dubois. I know we could always come up with someone, but he would kind of, I know, if Zhang wins and all that stuff, but you're right. All the big names, the multiple wins over AJ, the win over Dubois, multiple wins over Tyson Fury, there'll be no one else. You think he actually does it in the ring?
I do. I really do. I almost feel like there was a rematch clause obviously put in for their first fight. And, he's taken that. He's been obligated to take it, and he's taken it. And look, there's obviously a lot of money on the line. And rightly so. They're prize fighters, and they deserve as much money as they can. Again, I think it's the most dangerous sport in the world. Pay them. And they're both getting paid so well. But I think he's always been about legacy. Always been about legacy. He wanted to become the number 1 cruiserweight. He ticked that box. He wanted to become the number 1 heavyweight. People kind of thought, okay, maybe you're a bit too small. He's ticked that box. Now what are we doing? Are we circling back? Joseph Parker? Daniel Dubois again? Like, what are we doing? And if Jaya Pattaya was undisputed at cruiserweight, then maybe there's a conversation there. But Jaya is the IBF champion. I mean, Jaya's got to do work in the cruiserweight division himself. So I don't think there are any sexy fights. I don't think there are any legacy fights. And I think he's made the most money he can fighting AJ and Fury. So I think I almost feel like he does what the MMA guys do when they take their gloves off and put them in the ring.
Wow. What a scene that would be. I mean, he turns 38 in January. There's still a ton of money to be made given the current landscape.
There always will be.
Of the sport.
There always will be.
I know. Well,
there
that
always will be. And you know what? We want them to stay on too long, these guys, sometimes. And I get it. We romanticize about them. They bring us so much joy. But it is a very, very dangerous sport. This is a guy that's been boxing since he was, 9, 10? He's been in this sport a long time. Hundreds of amateur fights. Like, sometimes it's good to say goodbye to them when all their faculties are in place, they're healthy, and they can enjoy the sport. Too many boxers stay on for too long, and we see the other side of it that we don't like to talk about. And I would hate to see an Usyk or a Fury or an AJ or anyone stay on too long when they've entertained us for as long as they have.
would be shades of Lennox Lewis back in the day, just kind of walking away at the top of his game with maybe a little bit more left to squeeze, but doing it on his terms. You can't not respect that. It's the out that every fighter dreams of, but that drug always keeps them coming back for more. There are very few out there that are able to say, no, thank you, I'm done. If he does that, would certainly put him in legendary company.